On the whole, I'd say that Earthrise was a super popular toy line that made many a Transformers fans happy, faithfully depicting beloved characters into the 21st century, also drawing the sneers of the Snark Lords on Twitter droning on about how there's too much G1 with these toys, just as they're clicking the pre-order button. The one thing people agree was kinda wonky about Earthrise though was the release of certain figures. Many of the popular supporting characters were sold as exclusives, something that's usually reserved for super nerdy obscure nobodies like Greenlight or the Rainmakers. So when they announced Amazon exclusive Earth mode versions of fan favorites Prowl and Ironhide, the world trembled as the fanbase scrambled to get their pre-orders on time. So please don't take it as a flex when I show you mine. Let's all go for a ride with Earthrise Autobot Alliance, Prowl, and Ironhide. I'm gonna start with Ironhide first because, screw the cops. Ironhide was a rather big player in the G1 cartoon. However, I think one of his most memorable scenes was in the '86 movie when he was tragically killed by Megatron. When he carried out a homicide override with pride, I can verify and testify that Ironhide died as he tried to fortify and lied residing beside nullified allies. And let me tell you, I cried. Did you like my rhymes? Or were you unsatisfied? Okay, I'll stop. Anywho, let's brush that aside and look at the toy. Truth be told, I don't know how they could have gotten the robot mode any more perfect. For a generation scale Ironhide, this translates the Toon's traits terrifically, especially when you consider that Ironhide doesn't exactly have the best plastic reputation. Now some folks might notice that this figure reuses parts from the Siege Ironhide mold, and as such they're very much alike. This is basically just the Earth flavor version of that. So, sorry if you bought that figure first. The sculpting throughout is really good, but for me, nothing can top that delicious head sculpt, shown here with the silver painted Scorn and sporting the full bebop hairdo. Ironhide comes with two accessories, one of which is this blaster, paying homage to his 80s toy self, and the other is the entire roof section of his alt mode, which he can wield mightily as a kinda riot shield. Love that big ol' Autobot symbol. But yes, this does mean that this figure transforms with a bit of parts forming. You know what, that's alright. I can understand why, for a typical deluxe class figure trying to faithfully achieve Ironhide's Zumbo look as closely as possible, they would do something like this. I mean, Ironhide's robot design was basically just a default boxy robot with a chest windscreen and no other alt mode Easter eggs, so what else could you do when you're balling on a budget? You ain't got masterpiece funding. So I think they just did what they could. Some people will be into it, others won't, just like everything else on the planet. Personally, I'm quite tickled by the shield, cause when you think about it, shields aren't really common accessories for Transformers. How many other figures come with a shield? And at least it actually does kinda look like a shield, unlike other attempts. You can also push out this peg to make it look like he's firing this flattened pancake cannon. It's kinda silly, but it's a thing you can do with it. We're a fan of options in this household. Also, you can totally make this G1 toy fan mode, which looks sensationally ridiculous, but it's just fun. It just adds to the playability for me, Big picture, Ironhide's robot mode is big, hulking, and overall something I just can't help but love. He's a good old Iron Man. Similarly can be said for Prowl too, but wait a second, where's Prowl? Wait. Prowl, get off my grandma's carpet! She doesn't like anybody on the carpet, especially police! Anyway, I should say that unlike Ironhide, Prowl didn't really have much going on in the personality department back in the cartoon. However, the comics depicted him as kind of a douchebag that nobody liked. Oh, sorry, I forgot he's a police car, let me try that again. He was a huge douchebag that nobody liked. But he was always a really popular character, even if it was just because he was part of the original Transformers lineup. But yeah, just like our Ironhead, this figure represents Prowl's on-screen appearance dazzlingly. I always loved his contrasting black and white color scheme, and the head sculpt just looks beautiful. I've heard this is actually closer to Bluestreak's head design than Prowl's, but I can't imagine myself in the headspace of someone who'd actually get annoyed at this. These are probably the same people who thought it was a legitimate problem that Chewbacca didn't hug Leia in Force Awakens. Plus, it's kinda silly to get bothered by his head sculpt when most of his legs are made out of that translucent clear plastic.
Oh, you know how much I love that.
So just be careful, You can't really replace this thing. He has all the Prowl peculiarities you'd want, like the iconic door wings and the window shins, which, now that I think about it, actually kind of sounds like a band name. He also comes with the obligatory blaster, but in the name of cartoon accuracy, there are no shoulder cannons, which, is fine. The articulation on both figures is all over the place. I'm really happy with how far the posability has come with modern figures. Like, pretty much every mainline Transformer now has ankle tilt, wrist swivel, and a waist rotation, which are things that some figures just a few years ago didn't even have. The sculpting is also really wild here, especially on their arms and various other odd parts here and there. These figures are also loaded with weapon ports, so if you want, you can smush Cog and Six Gun onto them and armor them up like a 90s comic book character. So, in its own way, Earthrise Prowl is also super satisfying, and to me looks way better than other Prowls released in the past few decades. That's pretty good, you know? In short, Ironhide and Prowl's robot modes are fantastic. Dare I say, drop dead gorgeous? The transformations on both these guys are just fun. Maybe a bit predictable if you're familiar with the other figures of these characters, but they're still nice for what they are. I especially love Ironhide's 180-degree ab rotation. With Prowl though, again, please try to be careful so the clear plastic doesn't cave in. Now starting out with Mr. Hyde, I'd say this van mode looks pretty serviceable, if not entirely perfect. The front actually looks so appealing and actually looks kind of friendly. The sides are where the illusion does require a bit of suspension of disbelief. Like, yes, that is just Ironhide's fully visible robot shoulder just hanging out, chillin'. And the back windows aren't given any color, possibly to assist the robot mode's legs, but I still really like the sculpted in car detail and the yellow stripe. I'm actually really smitten with how they actually painted the door handles silver. They didn't need to do that, but small stuff like that just really appeals to me. Now, when you turn this thing all the way around, you get... yeah, Ironhide's feet are just poking out the back. Who designed this? Dan Schneider? Yeah, if something like this really doesn't do it for you, I understand. But for me, if these were the compromises they had to make to have the rest of the alt mode look as nice as this, I can forgive it. I'd say that overall, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives for me, and I'm just surprised that in 2020 we seriously got an Ironhide toy that actually turns into this sunny little vanette. For some reason, I've always wanted an Ironhide figure that actually turned into this dated block of cheese, so that definitely fills this void. Hey, he's a robot in disguise. Does that mean he's Ironhiding? Similarly with Prowl too, this just looks exactly what I think of when I think of the character. This is the only police car where my immediate reaction on seeing it isn't annoyance or fear. Again, loving that Cruella de Vil color scheme with the black and white and subtle pinch of red on the light bar Autobot symbol and tail lights. Maybe this is just because Ironhide's whole back section was his feet, but I'm actually quite taken with how well everything's sculpted here. He's also got the word police on the side of his doors, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is the semi-bold Open Sans font. Again, Prowl being a police car does seem to go in line with what I know about him in the comics. Now, both these guys feature a hole on their top sections, so I guess you can plug in their guns here, which honestly doesn't look half bad. I mean, taking into account that these are alien robots who are also soldiers in their millions-year civil war, I suppose it works fine. Maybe it's because they're lined up or something, it looks less silly than other attempts. You know, it's something. So yeah, overall, Prowl and Ironhide are both really solid entries to the Earthrise toy line, and I'm super glad I was able to get them. I don't think they're really worth the prices that some people are demanding for them. I mean, I was lucky enough to get these for $40 off Amazon. I don't think they're quite worth a whole Titan class figure. They basically are just two normal deluxe class figures. But seeing them as just that, two deluxe class figures, I'm happy to add them to the Auto fam. I'll tell you what I do find strange though, is how whenever there are police car Transformers, they're usually Autobots, as in the good guys, because oftentimes, at least through my perspective, cops and authority figures in Transformers tend to be depicted as unhelpful, unnecessarily douchey, or just straight up evil. Like how in Age of Extinction when those dudes showed up to Mark Wahlberg's house and threatened to shoot his daughter because they heard he was hiding Transformers. Like, am I alone on this? Is this weird to anyone else? Oh, hold on one sec.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you've been hiding Transformers.
No, officer. No Transformers here.
Ah, really? What are those then?
Those aren't mine.
Okay, now you're coming with me. No.